I just had a great question from a parent asking about supporting a child who is working through this prompt. And so I'm going to start by just reading it. So what it says is a debt of 874, losing 346. Now, the first questions you want to ask and to begin to ask aloud, asking yourself, so that eventually it becomes the internal questions that a child might ask themselves is, am I going to be above zero or below zero? So just by looking at this, the first thing we want to consider is where we're going to be on the number line. Am I going to be above zero or below zero? I have a debt of 874 and I'm losing 346. So just hearing that, I can think, okay, if I'm at a debt of 874 and I'm losing, am I going up or down? So if I'm losing, I'm going down. If I'm thinking of it as I'm losing debt, then I'm going to be going up. But in this case, I'm just losing. I already have a loss and I'm losing even more. Another question that you can ask for support is, what number is this here? What number is this? And the inclination is to say, well, it's 346. But really, this isn't 346 because it's a loss. So really, this value is to have a debt of 346. This is a debt of 346. So at this moment, we can then come back to and connect to something else we know about subtraction, which is the definition of subtraction. The very definition being that if I have a debt of 8 and I'm losing 6. So by going to a sidebar, thinking about something a little bit simpler first and to consider what that means on the number line. If I have a debt of 8 and I'm losing 6, we want to draw that vertical number line in this case and to be able to visualize that and use this model for thinking. So here I am, I'm at a debt of 8. And once I'm at a debt of 8 and I'm losing 6, I'm going further down on the number line. I'm going deeper into debt. So I have a debt of 8, and if I go down 6, I'm going to go down 6 more. Then I'm thinking, okay, I've gone deeper into debt. And we can do that by just even counting. Well, if I go down 1 more, where am I going to be? If I'm at a debt of 8 and I go down deeper 1 more, I'm going to be at a debt of 9. Then the question might be, well, if I go down another 1, where am I going to be? Oh, I'm going to be at a debt of 10. So modeling out even just these single jumps here to be able to think about, well, where are we going to be on the number line? So having this model of the vertical number line and thinking, I'm gaining a debt, I'm gaining another debt. We can use the terms gaining debt, but we can also use the term losing. That these two ideas, that this language of gaining debt and losing, that these are kind of interchangeable, and we want to be able to use them flexibly so that we can see that we can read this in multiple ways. I have a debt of 8 and I'm losing 6. So we've gone down, and you might continue to go down. You might go down 4 more, and so that when you've gone down 4 more, you're at a debt of 14. So far we've gone down 6, we've lost 6, and that brought us to a debt of 14. Now we can look at that also in considering this expression. If I have a debt of 8 and a debt of 6. So I'm reading this expression as a debt of 8 and a debt of 6. Going back to this model of the vertical number line, if I have a debt of 8 and I'm gaining debt or I'm gaining depth, again, another word you can consider using here is depth. I have a debt of 8 and a debt of 6, or a debt of 8 and a depth of 6. Debt and more debt. I was already losing, and now I'm losing even more. We're going down on the number line. So I have a debt of 8, and I'm going to go down, and you'll notice that we end up at the same place. We've increased our depth. We've gone deeper. This is also a debt of 14. So when we're establishing this concept of subtraction, we really make this connection that these two expressions are equivalent. That the definition of subtraction, as we would say, is to be losing is to have a gain of a debt or a gain of debt, a gain of a debt or a gain of depth. So we can consider these two things as equal. So now let's transfer that back to when we're looking at this expression that's a little bit more complex. So again, when I'm supporting a young mathematician, I'm going to want to maybe consider a simpler problem where I can reestablish that concept. What we call that is a sidebar. So we provide this sidebar, which is a mini problem that relates, is connected, and then by revisiting the models for thinking, by revisiting the language, by engaging in questioning and exploration to establish that, then we can ask a child to then transfer their new insight into a more complex problem. So then having that tool to be able to pull out that sidebar as a teacher is a really powerful tool for supporting and coaching. So then let's come back to this expression. So this expression says I have a debt of 874 and I'm losing 346. So again, I'm going to be asking myself, I'm thinking aloud, am I going to be above zero or below zero? Well, I'm already below zero and I'm losing even more. I'm going to be deeper into debt. I'm going to be way below zero. So starting there with that question, then thinking about, am I going up or down on the number line? Well, I'm at a debt of 874 and I'm losing, so I'm going down. So then the question could be, how else could we think of this? Just asking that question, you might see that your child, that a learner is ready to think about this by transferring what they already know, that this could also be thought of in this way. Now, just by expressing it in this way, by understanding that this value is a debt of 346, so we can consider it as a debt of 874 and a debt of 346. Just that alone, that move of expressing it this way helps to open doors for more flexibility. Now, there's so many ways that we could then move forward to simplify this, but the very beginning, just being able to conceptualize, what does this actually mean? Which way am I going on the number line? Am I going to be above zero or below zero? About how much would this be? So to be able to begin approximating, estimating, and just being able to consider about how much is a great place to begin. And then how your students choose to tackle this, there's so many choices. So what you might see is that you might see a child who says, well, I want to combine my debt of 800 and my debt of 300. So they're seeing, okay, I'm going to decompose that by place value. And that is a fine place to begin. So they have this debt of 800, they have this debt of 300, and they maybe say, well, I have this debt of 70 and this debt of 40. And they have this debt of 4 and this debt of 6. So this alone, just decomposing by place value, might be a place where a lot of learners want to go, and that's fine. So they have debt and more debt, a debt of 800, a debt of 300. You might choose to think about asking them questions about getting to that next 100 or getting to that next 1,000 in this case. How far are we away from a debt of 1,000? So I might draw, little mini number lines here just to begin to support these intermediate steps as well. So lots of work here. If I'm at a debt of 800 and how far am I from a debt of 1,000? So seeing that that's just 200 more. So I'm thinking, or that's to lose 200 more. So then to go down 200 would bring me to a debt of 1,000. So then losing 300 or gaining a debt of 300 would bring me to a debt of 1,100. So from there, thinking about a debt of 70, well, a debt of 70, how much would I need to lose to get to the next 100 or the debt of 100, and seeing that that's a distance of 30, well, we're jumping down, we're going down 40, so then we would have a debt of 110. So we're combining these two. And then here, similar, we're combining these two. Again, thinking about, well, a debt of 6 and a debt of 4. Well, if I'm at a debt of 4 and I'm going down 6, well, that's helpful. To go down 6 brings me to a debt of 10. So now we have this expression here, and now they're combining all their debt. I have debt, and more debt. I'm going deeper into debt, or depth, and more depth. I'm just going deeper. I'm deeper below. So then they can choose to combine in any way they want. They might choose to combine these two first. They might choose to combine these two first. Again, following that kind of those choices, really up to where your child is. At this point, if we're establishing just an understanding of what this means conceptually, we don't, like, if a child's choosing to decompose by place value here, that is a fine place to begin. We'll continue to then stretch that towards more efficiency, towards more, more interesting creative approaches, and that can come. Perhaps let's look at one more idea, how they might approach that. if we're ready to coach towards later stages of development, greater efficiency, or maybe pressing them to just consider in another way so that they can have more creativity, more ways of reasoning in their pocket, we can then move them back to the number line. And we can be thinking about, well, if I'm at a debt or a depth of 874, so I'm going to write that here. We're here. And again, going back to those questions of how far am I from the next 10, the next 100, the next 1,000? And this could even begin by thinking about, well, I only need to go down 6 more. If I go down 6 more, then that brings me to a debt of 880. So having those conversations, having a child use their fingers and count, being able to figure out where exactly will I be, how far to that next 10, and that's a great conversation. I've gone down to a debt of 880. Well, that's helpful because then we can really think about this number carefully. The way that we would talk about that is saying we can strategically substitute. So we're not just going to combine this in any old way. We want to combine in a strategic way. So if I know I only need 6 more down to go down 6 more, well, I have that here. I can think of this. I can strategically substitute this value for a debt of 6 and a debt of 340. Now here I might ask, is that still equivalent? Is this equal to this value? Yes. And we're choosing to do that for a specific reason. We know something. We know how far this number is away from this next 10. So then we're saying, okay, now I'm going to combine these two values because I know that brings me to a debt of 880. Now I'm pausing there again because now I'm thinking, okay, I still have to combine more. I still have more debt to gain, but I want to do that again in a strategic way by thinking about the next 10 or 100. I'm looking at this debt of 880. If I go down 20 more, where does that bring me? That might be the question, or even just how far until I get to a debt of 900? How much more do I need to go down to get to a debt of 900, that next 100? So from there, we'll see that it's 20. Well, then do I have a loss of 20? Can I move down 20? Sure can. So thinking of this instead as a debt of 20 and a debt of 320. So this combination, are these two values equivalent to this one here? Yes. But now we're choosing to strategically combine these two terms because I know something about that, using what I know to help me find what I don't yet know. And now I can combine my debt of 320 next. So there might be an additional prompt from there to get to 1,000, or maybe a child is able to look at this and say and carry that at this point. Oh, I see that I can combine just these two and move forward from there, write that thinking down. So again, there's lots of different ways that we can simplify this, but the most important part before you even begin to tackle things like this is the types of questions that get a child reasoning and thinking. As we're coaching kids, we're really thinking about what is the next best question? What is the edge? Where are you at in your thinking? And by pulling out that sidebar teaching move, by pulling out this vertical number line, by relying heavily on that language and the questioning, we're able to really press children to be able to reason and think, and that will come with more practice, with more talk, that the understanding will come, and they'll mess this up. This will fall apart and come back together. That the idea being that when we understand a concept, that we really can play with it and explore it, and over time that becomes sturdier knowledge.